going on, man? Today is March the 6th, 2024. It's your boy Chris, and this is the ChrisBeCappinn NBA show. I'm live on Twitter, also live on YouTube as well. Yeah, do me a favor, hit the like button for me as you join. Retweet the show, share the show, all that good stuff. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already, and definitely turn the notification bell on so you guys know when I go live. If you would like to become a member, there's the link at the bottom, and there's also a link to the ISJam promo page. But we're just going to jump right into it, man. Did not have the greatest day yesterday for whatever reason. You can call it whatever we want to call it. But, jumped on Philly on the money line. Definitely think that was the right side. Of course, they end up ruling Tyrese Maxey out after saying that he had a delayed concussion. So that's terrible because I do my homework, of course, before I'm putting these plays in, and Tyrese Maxey wasn't on the injury report at all. And of course, like around 1 o'clock, Tyrese Maxey gonna miss the game. He's gonna be further evaluated. So that's unfortunate because I definitely think I think Philly was the right side, and we got tons of CLV there. Atlanta, New York goes over by 1 point. So that was pretty devastating as well. Another loss, but we did cash on Toronto team total under. So all in all, we lose a little less than a unit yesterday, but definitely looking to get that back as we get into today's slate. So I'm going to just jump right into it, man. I appreciate everybody for tapping in. I'm going to go through the comments off air because I do have a pretty busy day. And all the people that's reaching out, my back, it's about 40% better. I'm still in a lot of pain. Just kind of got to get in the right position. And I think I pulled a muscle outside of popping my sacrum out of place. So I got my sacrum pop back in place, and it's a pull muscle too. So back killing me, not able to work out. It's really it's crazy right now. But it's all good though, man. First game up. Let's go to DC. So we got the Washington Wizards. They'll be at home. 8-point dogs. This line actually opened at 7 last night. 7 was the number. And I saw it tick to 7.5. It's still a couple 7.5s out there as well, and 8 as well on some books. Total dropped all the way from 227 down to 223.5. This was 225.5 last night as well. And I immediately, the first thing I thought about was let's go under, right? We've been cashing on this Wizards team total under, especially when they're at home as a as a home dog. And this team does not look good. So let's go through it real quick. So Orlando, second leg of a back-to-back, of course. They don't perform well. And that was one of the reasons why I wanted to kind of stay away from the spread. Now, granted, we know Washington is terrible. I think they're 3-25 at home on the season. And Orlando is second leg of a back-to-back. They're only 3-9 straight up, 6-6 against the spread on the second leg of back-to-back. It's also a third game before nights for them as well. They are 7-3 against the spread in their last 10 games, 4-0 straight up and against the spread in their last 4. This Wizards team, 15 straight losses. Of course, we backed them the other day in Utah. Probably the worst decision that I made in quite a while. Well, actually, I think it was a great decision. They just didn't perform. So 15 straight losses for this Washington Wizards team. They are 9-19 against the spread at home, 15-8. One of the things I looked at was without Daniel Gafford in the lineup. So Daniel Gafford is gone, of course, and Marvin Bagley's also been ruled out for this game. So without Marvin Bagley and Daniel Gafford on the floor, this team is a minus 15.8 in point differential scored per 100 possessions. That, to me, seems like Orlando could easily go over their team total, and that's the way I'm looking. So I know that the total is dropping, but I actually like Orlando team total over a little bit more than I like the Wizards team total under. I think you just see a much more faster-paced game. I know Orlando was in a real slow shootout type game with the Charlotte Hornets before they pulled away in the fourth quarter last night. I watched that game pretty much most of the game. But I looked at Washington. They're 1-4 straight up and against the spread when they're at home facing the team that's on the second leg of a back-to-back. So you could just play Orlando on the spread. Head-to-head, Orlando's also 3-0 straight up, 2-1 against the spread this season. They've gone over in all 3 matchups. And like I was saying earlier, I think, looking at this Wizards team, second leg of a back-to-back, they're 2-7 against the spread in their last 9 as home dogs. They've gone under their team total in 8 of their last 10 when they're at home in this spot as a home dog. However, like I said, Washington team total 109.5 was the number last night. It's probably down to 107. I don't know. Washington may be able to get there. I'm just not willing to put my money on the under in this spot just because Washington plays at such a faster pace. Orlando should dominate the paint, dominate the rebounds in this game. So I like Orlando team total over a little bit more than I like the Washington Wizards team total under in this spot. 115.5 is the number. I haven't gotten there yet, but I just want to wait for the injury report, make sure nobody's going to be on there. But Orlando team total over, I think, makes the most sense. They scored 116 points or more in 6 straight games against the Washington Wizards. That's all. They played 3 times already this season, and that goes back all 3 games last season. And it makes a lot of sense. Washington really, they're one of the worst rebounding teams in the league, and now you're taking Bagley off the floor, who's already been rolled out in this game. So I like Orlando team total over a little bit more than I like Washington Wizards team total under. We've been cashing with the Wizards team total under, but I think I'll sit on the sideline in that one. Just look for Orlando to be able to score. Washington will play with a lot more pace than Charlotte did last night. I think Orlando could be a little fatigued. I wouldn't say fatigued, but may not be as locked in defensively in this one versus a fast-paced Washington Wizards team. And other thing I think this important to mention in this one as well is that for the Washington Wizards, they don't necessarily I'm looking at these teams that have beaten these teams 3 straight times already. A lot of the times we see them teams not really locked in that spot. This just happened with the Portland Trailblazers against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Not to say that they won the game, but you see in the third game, teams just not as focused. If I've beaten you already, 2 times, 3 times already this season, it's the last game, second leg of a back-to-back. So I think Orlando going to be able to score no matter what in the spot. I like Orlando team total over 115.5. Next game up, and I didn't break down all the games. I'm going to just get to the ones that I like the most real quick for you guys. The Cavs and the Hawks. So this line, crazy enough, this line actually opened with Atlanta actually getting – I saw a 1.5 last night. I didn't pull the trigger, but I do think the Atlanta Hawks are the right side in this game. So 1.5 was on Sports Illustrated last night when I was capping the game, and I got bad luck with the Atlanta Hawks. I take their total I take the full game last night. They go over by half a point, by a 1.5, and then of course we backed them in the first game against Brooklyn, and of course they get absolutely smoked. They lose the second game as well, but then you somehow beat the Knicks. Not 100% sure how. I know the Knicks were shorthanded last night, but this is an Atlanta spot for me. The only thing you don't like about Atlanta is that they're coming back home off. I think it was a 4-game road trip. They were in Brooklyn for 2 games. And then in New York. So, not a lot of travel. Of course, the second leg of a back-to-back for both teams. And for Cleveland, it's just a fade spot for Cleveland. I think you got to fade Cleveland in the spot. So you do want to wait, of course, on the status of Strus. People not waiting because this line already at 2.5. But Strus going to be listed as questionable. Evan Mobley also rolled his ankle last night. I don't think that he's going to play. And, of course, Donovan Mitchell already out as well. So those three things kind of come into play. But then you look at the emotional output that they put into that game yesterday. If anybody saw what Dean Wade did in the fourth quarter, it was absolutely crazy last night. Emotional second 22-point comeback last night. But outside of all that, because typically you want to fade teams, we just talked about this with the Lakers against the Wizards. The Lakers had to come back against the Clippers last week, and of course they get smoked. Well, not smoked, but they don't cover against the Wizards the next night because they had to overcome such a big deficit. Same thing in this game, but now you get this Cleveland Cavalier team on the road. It's also a 6-game and 8 and 9 nights for this Cleveland Cavaliers team. Went through and did the math. This team has been playing. They played a couple back-to-backs. This will be a back-to-back as well. I just think that, Atlanta, this should be an Atlanta spot. I can't get there. I can't bet Atlanta. This is bad luck for me. But Atlanta should be able to get the job done. I would look towards Atlanta maybe on the money line. I think that they're not the better team, but they're in a much better spot, in my opinion. Head-to-head, it's a triple revenge spot for them as well. Atlanta has beaten them. Atlanta has lost all 3 games so far this season. The other thing I think that's important to mention is before yesterday's game against the Knicks, the Atlanta Hawks didn't have to travel anywhere. Remember, they were already in Brooklyn. They've been in Brooklyn for like 6 days because even with the back-to-back Brooklyn games, both of those games had time in between. So they actually had 2 days off before yesterday. So the only way I would be able to play this game would be Atlanta. I think, any team coming back from 22 down, playing this 6-game and 9 nights, emotional win. You also could potentially be without Mobley. I'm not thinking Mobley's going to play in this game. This will probably be a throwaway game for the Cleveland Cavaliers, in my opinion. I think Atlanta is the right side in this game, but I couldn't, like I said, Atlanta just not. I can't do it. Atlanta not for me, not for me at all. Let's see. All right, let's keep it pushing. Next game up will be the Los Angeles Clippers. They will be in Houston tonight. And this line actually opened at 6.5 last night. Was it 6.5? It was 6.5, right? Yeah, 6.5. Total opened at 225.5. I'm kind of upset I didn't take the under because I do like the under a lot in this spot. I was at 224.5 last night. Some money immediately came in on the under, dropped it from 225.5 down to 224.5. Now it's all the way down to 223. I think this could continue to go under. I really, really do. Clippers, of course, still kind of struggling, man. They got a big win against the Minnesota Timberwolves, and on the second leg of that back-to-back, went to Milwaukee just 2 nights ago and lost that game outright on Monday after having another double-digit lead. That's the second time over the course of a week that this Clippers team has blown a double-digit lead in the fourth quarter. Some reason they said, some people saying they went small too early against the Milwaukee Bucks in the fourth quarter with 8 minutes left. But we remember back, they also lost to the Lakers. Excuse me. We were on the Lakers in that spot. They also lost to the Lakers and blew a double-digit lead in that game as well. So for those reasons, I kind of feel like you get an extremely motivated Clippers team. I see the money coming in on the Clippers in this spot. Houston has not been the greatest team on the second leg of a back-to-back. I kind of lean towards the Clippers. I like them early just because they have been blowing leads. I think they come out extremely focused, locked in this spot. Head-to-head, the Clippers have owned this Houston Rockets team as well. They've won 9 of the last 10. They won the first game this season, 106-100 in LA. Houston actually covered as a 7.5-point dog by 2 points in that spot. It is the third game in 4 nights for the Clippers, but it's a back-to-back for the Houston Rockets. And Houston actually had to fight. They had to fight, pretty hard. I know they ended up winning and covering last night against the San Antonio Spurs. And Houston has won 2 games in a row. They've won 2 games in a row and covered both of those games as well. This Clippers team just 3-7 against the spread in their last 10 games. But to me, it kind of feels like this one should be an under game, and it kind of feels like Clippers early would be the right spot just to get that bad taste out of their mouth based on what happened to them in that Bucks game. Like I said, as far as the total, Clippers 7-3 to the under in their last 10. Houston 7-2-1 against this 7-2-1 to the 7-2-1 ATS in their last 10, including 5-0-1 to the under in their last 6 games. So to me, this does lines up for under, man. Like I said, I'm kind of frustrated I didn't get the 225.5. I can see this being a very slow, grinded out style game. I already told you guys that the last one only scored about 206 points. That was in LA. Houston, much better defensively at home than they are on the road. So kind of like that one to go under. I think this is the last game that I broke down. I didn't get to the Bucks. I won't have time to go over the Bucks and the Warriors. I do think you got to wait on the status of Giannis, even though that number opened at 2.5. It's all the way up to 4.5 for some books, and that total continues to drop. 228.5 down to 226. I would agree with the movement coming there. But definitely want to wait on the status of Giannis, in my opinion. People putting money on Golden State like Giannis not going to play. Maybe they know something I don't know. He is dealing with that Achilles injuries and missed the last game. So we'll see how that shakes out. Now, as far as this Bulls and Jazz game go, jumped on this one last night when Utah actually uploaded some money on Sports Illustrated, because we always talk about them being the slowest moving book. Uploaded some money on Sports Illustrated and they suspended it. But I did get it on Unibet. I could have got Utah. I could have got Chicago at a +2.5 last night. And this line is all the way at Utah +4 now. So 6.5 points of movement. But I ended up grabbing it on Unibet. Shout out to my guy, Bryce, making sure I was locked in last night. So now you see the Bulls. And the reason why is because, of course, Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen are both ruled out on the Utah Jazz side. Chicago, really, really big win. And this is a Jekyll and Hyde team, man. When you bet Chicago, sometimes you just got to go do something else, because they'll find themselves down 10, 15, 20 points. They're not a great offensive team, but they play great during spurts of the game is what I'm figuring out about the Chicago Bulls. They can really overcome any kind of deficit, but I kind of gave you guys the numbers in the last game, right? I told you guys that without Lauri Markkanen on the floor and without Walker Kessler on the floor, this team was a minus, I think it was 17. And, going too fast. Hitting buttons over here. All right, so getting back to this game. Let me see if I can find that real quick, because I already had it written down, so it wasn't something that I looked into again. But because the numbers had already kind of made a lot of sense to me. So Utah, what are they? 3-8 straight up. 4-7 7 against the spread in their last 11 games. This will be their second game back home. I already talked about Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen being ruled out. This team is not – they're really, really bad without Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler on the floor. And granted, they covered against Washington. They won that game outright, and they still were favorites in that game. This is not the Washington Wizards that this team is playing against today. Chicago Bulls are much better rebounding team, first and foremost, than the Washington Wizards. They're also much better at limiting transition points. We know Utah like to get out. And that was one of the reasons why I kind of like Chicago in that last game against the Utah Jazz, right? I'm sorry, against the Sacramento Kings, because Sacramento top 4 in offensive in transition efficiency and transition efficiency. They really like to get out and run. Now the Chicago Bulls, they're top 3 in defending the fast break. Utah will really, really struggle to score. Indicative of what you see the total coming down to in this game as well. 225.5 down to 223.5. I definitely agree with the movement there. Like I said, Chicago can struggle to score at times as well. But without Lauri Markkanen on the floor, Utah is a minus 11.1 in points scored per 100 possessions. Without Walker Kessler and Lauri Markkanen on the floor, I gave you guys these numbers the other day, minus 17.2. I think that comes into play in this game specifically. Also think Chicago should have a humongous advantage, being able to knock down the 3-point ball in this spot, because Utah also ranks, bottom 5. So guys like Ayo Dosunmu, guys like Kobe White, even DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic, all of these guys should be able, to get the job done. Chicago also battling. If you just check out where they are in the Eastern Conference, they might not be able to move up too much, but all of these games mean a lot to them, and it's a very, very winnable game. So with the number where it currently is, there's a 3.5 out there. I'll probably take that. I think that they win the game by multiple possessions. I would say that. So I think the 4 is good. Utah does have this thing where it's almost like the second half of the game, the altitude kind of catches up with the team and the opponent team, and they can't score in the fourth quarter. If you go through and look at it, Utah, especially games where they're home dogs, and we know that this is when they cover, they really, really, score a bunch of points in the fourth quarter, and the opposing team doesn't for whatever reason. So maybe even Chicago early in this game, maybe Chicago first half, because Utah, I'm predicting that they'll be down a half, and they typically fight back in the fourth quarter. Like I said, not the greatest rebounding team without Lauri Markkanen and Walker Kessler. Also going to miss Lauri Markkanen for his scoring as well. And you got guys out there in Chicago that can really slow down the Utah Jazz offense from the guard position. Caruso should play in this game. Hopefully he can, slow down Jordan Clarkson. Hopefully he can slow down Jordan Clarkson and who's the other guy I'm thinking of? Colin Sexton, Keontae George as well. So I like the matchup for the Bulls in this spot. If I had to play it, I'd probably take the 3.5. Definitely shop around. Just because you see 4 don't mean that the 4 is the best number. So those are my thoughts on that game. And I already kind of went over this one, touched on this one a little bit. So the Bucks will be in Golden State starting this Western Conference road trip. The Bucks have been absolutely on fire. They've won 6-7 games in a row, and covered pretty much every one of the spreads as well. Let's see. Yeah, and then you got the Golden State Warriors coming back home after getting absolutely demolished against the Boston Celtics. They lost their game by 52 points. So they should, probably want to get that bad taste out of their mouth. I just think it's going to be a defensive game. The Bucks are what are the Bucks? The Bucks are 9-0-1 to the under in their last 10 games. We just cashed on the under with them playing against the Los Angeles Clippers just 2 days ago. And Golden State also trending towards the under as well. They went under, way far under their team total. And that game did stay under against the Boston Celtics, even though they lost the game by 50. So I think it's an under type game. Golden State first game back home after a nice little East Coast road trip. Not sure what I'll do with the side. Like I said, I do think it's indicative of what happens with Giannis. So we'll see how it goes. And then, of course, I didn't break down Memphis and Philly. No idea what's going to happen in that game. Not a game that I'm probably even going to go near. OKC and Portland, I didn't touch either. That line did open at 11.5, already up to 13. And then my Lakers and the Kings play tonight as well. Triple revenge spot for the Lakers. Anthony Davis listed as probable. LeBron listed as questionable. No idea whether he should play, and the Lakers should be wanting to get revenge. But Clippers as road dogs, man, that's kind of their role. That's kind of their role. Money already coming in on the Lakers in that game. Just something I want to look a little bit deeper into. Typically don't bet Laker games either. So I say all that to say this. Top look on the board, in my opinion. I took Chicago yesterday. I think the 3.5 is still good if you want to get in with Chicago right now. I expect the line to potentially even move some more, maybe even a 4.5. And then Orlando team total over the 115. Absolutely. I think the other best play on the board for today. I already told you guys, Washington not playing a lot of defense at all. Orlando scored 116 points in 6 straight games against the Wizards. I do think that, being the spot that they're in on the second leg of a back-to-back, their defense doesn't play as well, which will force them to score more points as well. So Orlando team total over 115.5. Haven't bet it yet, but I'm highly considering that. And the Clippers first half -3.5. Bad taste in their mouth based on what happened in that game in Milwaukee the other day. You also get Houston on the second leg of a back-to-back. So I do think Clippers first half -3.5 is the right side as well. As always, here are the resources that I use to kind of handicap the games. You guys can go back and pause this if you want to kind of look a little deeper into these. Some of them are paid, some of them are not. None of them pay me, but just kind of always wanting to help people, kind of handicap the games, giving out resources. And as always, man, if you guys enjoyed the show, do me one favor. Hit the like button for me. Share the show if you can. Subscribe to the channel. Best of luck on all your action that you guys have for today. Bet responsibly. I'll catch you guys potentially at 5 o'clock. We'll see how things go, man. Y'all have a great day.